Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm glad that we're back in the first webinar in the year. So I'm very happy that we have the time to go and get together. I'm very lucky today. I wanna introduce Alana. She's our senior program developer from School Food Literacy at the Ministry of Agriculture and Food. And I'm very lucky that I listened to her a couple times. She knows so much about this, and I'm very glad and happy that she's joining us today. So for everybody who is here, we're gonna have like a little bit of a presentation, and then we will have some extra time to do some questions. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy. Welcome, Alana.
Thanks so much, Rocio, and thanks everyone for being here today to talk about local food literacy and incorporating that into school food programs. So, as Rocio noted, I am working with the Ministry of Agriculture and Food, but I am coming from a background as a BC certified teacher. Most recently, I worked with K to 9 students with a focus on outdoor hands-on learning and connecting them to their communities, including their local food system. So, really passionate about this work and helping youth understand where their food comes from because I see how it builds both wellness and a stronger future for our local food systems. I work on the youth development team at the ministry alongside the Feed BC team to support local food literacy programs and resource development for K to 12 schools. So thanks again so much for being here today. Okay, so I wanted to start with a land acknowledgement and recognizing that I'm calling today from the unceded territory of the Wet'suwet'en Nation, also known as Smithers, BC. And I'm so grateful to be joining from here and this land where I love growing food and harvesting food and playing on the land and living on the land. And I recognize that we're all joining from many territories across the province. I think we're all kind of staggered a little bit. So as we engage in school food work, I think it's important to recognize the ongoing impacts of colonial food and education systems on Indigenous communities. And just as importantly, I think it's important to learn from Indigenous knowledge keepers, build relationships with local nations, and create space for students to explore and learn about Indigenous food and food systems, ensuring that our work supports reconciliation rather than repeating harm. I think school food and food literacy hold powerful potential to heal, reconnect, and inspire, and I'm honored to be on this journey with you. So I'd like to share a land acknowledgement from a student who participated in the Great BC School Food Cook-Off. It's a cook-off we had, provincial cook-off, last December 2024 to March 2025. And each class was asked to acknowledge the land the recipe came from. This is an acknowledgement from a student in Prince Rupert whose class submitted the West Coast Sushi Bowl. So they say we are on the unceded traditional territory of the Somalia speaking and Shimsham peoples. Learning to brine, smoke, and cook with Miss Layton, Tony, and Donnie was one of the most important moments I had in school. Before I went to learn about this practice, I wasn't doing too well. I wasn't motivated to work or do most things I liked doing before. But then Miss Layton brought me and a couple other students to smoke fish and taught us Tony's way of smoking fish. Thanks to Miss Layton, Tony, and Donnie, I'm doing well now. So I just thought that this really shows when students are invited to connect deeply with their food and where it comes from, it can open up meaningful pathways toward reconciliation. So with this in mind, let's continue with our learning today. So objectives for today's webinar are to share practical tips and examples and resources to support and inspire increased local food literacy in K-12 classrooms and school food programs. So I'll be sharing about how local food literacy fits into Feed BC and Feeding Futures, and give examples from schools across BC about how they're doing this work. I'll also invite you to share with each other your stories in the chat, examples and resources along the way. So you can share in the chat or raise your hand. Rosie is going to kind of monitor the hand raising. And if you want to share, I'd love to hear some of your examples too. And then I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about resources available to teachers, including some of the more recent resources created by the ministry in partnership with other organizations and where to find them. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please type them in the chat box, or you can save them to the end where we'll have some time for a bit of a Q&A and discussion. Okay, so if you haven't heard of it before, Feed BC is a provincial initiative led by the Ministry of Agriculture and Food. And it's all about encouraging, inspiring, and supporting a shift towards serving more BC grown and processed foods in public institutions, including K-12 schools. So, yes, Sarah, I think you'll get a recording of the presentation. I can share a PDF of the slides. So as part of the broader Feeding Futures program and in line with its guiding principles, Feed BC is working closely with the Ministry of Education and Childcare, along with school districts and food supply partners, to help bring more BC food into new and growing K-12 school food programs. So in schools, Feed BC is focused on these two main areas. So first is increasing the purchase of BC food for school meal programs by supporting schools and districts in sourcing and tracking more local food with a goal of 30% BC food over time. And second, this is sort of where I'm coming in from, is helping to weave learning about local food, agriculture, and food systems into these programs. One of the 5 Feeding Futures guiding principles right here on the screen is all about supporting BC foods. And the key way we can bring that principle to life in schools is by incorporating local food literacy. So while local food literacy isn't really the central goal of the program, it does play an important and powerful supporting role. It helps us reach a range of other interconnected goals, from building student food skills and career awareness to supporting reconciliation and creating a stronger, more resilient food system. So when we embed learning about local food into school food programs, we're helping to build a culture where local food is understood, appreciated, and valued. So I'm talking about local food literacy, but what do I actually mean by that? To provide some context on today's content, I want to start by reviewing the what and the why of local food literacy. There are many different definitions and frameworks of food literacy that touch on different pillars such as nutrition, food skills, food systems. And I just want to acknowledge that our friends at the Ministry of Health do a great job of supporting nutrition and food literacy through resources like Teach Food First and the BC School Food Toolkit. So if you haven't checked out those resources yet, I would encourage you to Google them and check that out for more nutrition-focused food literacy information. We work with their team to ensure that our programs and resources align with their messaging and approach, but our focus at the Ministry of Agriculture and Food is to lead the agriculture and food systems part of the food literacy work. So we define local food literacy as the understanding and appreciation of local food. And so this includes how it's grown, processed, distributed, and shared, and its impact on society and the environment. It's also about fostering a positive relationships with local food and making informed choices to support local and sustainable food systems, ultimately contributing to food security. I noticed I said, could you put the names of those in the chat? Yeah, so that was Teach Food First and the BC School Food Toolkit. Okay. So why is local food literacy important? Well, developing local food literacy helps students form a meaningful connection to where their food comes from and the people behind it. This equips them with the knowledge, attitudes, and skills needed to actively contribute to resilient local food systems. It's really an investment in the future, in the next generation of our BC food systems. Okay, so we've talked about the what and the why, but now let's get into the how. So how can districts start weaving local food literacy into the fabric of their classrooms and their school food programs? Just like school food programs themselves, local food literacy doesn't look the same everywhere. It really depends on your local context. So, what programs and courses already exist in your school, which teachers are champions and they're super keen and on board, where there are school gardens or growing spaces, depends on your climate, your community connections or organizations in your community. All of these really influence what's possible. And let's be real, we know many of you are already wearing so many other multiple hats. So if this feels like one more thing, that's okay. Some of you might be ready to jump right in, and others of you might already be doing this work and you're looking to build on what's working. So no matter where you're starting from, I hope this slide can offer some sort of practical and flexible ways to take that next step. So let's walk through these sort of four key areas where you can embed local food literacy into your school food system. The first is growing. So getting students involved in growing food through a school garden or even a partnership with a local farm or community garden. You might source food from these spaces for the school meal program. You might organize a field trip to a farm or food processor or invite a farmer to speak with students. If in-person visits aren't possible, you can always try virtual field trips. These are a great option too. Some schools across the province are developing board authority authorized BAA agriculture courses to get students at the secondary level involved in growing and local food systems as well. So lots of different options in growing. Cooking or preparing. So there are tons of opportunities here as well. Working with your culinary arts or home ec teachers is a great place to start. Featuring seasonal or local foods in your class. Have students bring recipes from home that reflect their culture, or even help preparing meals for their peers. Cooking really connects students to food in a really hands-on and meaningful way. And then sharing. So this is all about building a food culture at your school, sharing stories and recipes, highlighting local and seasonal ingredients that are in your meals with signs or announcements, and celebrating through school-wide feasts or cultural potlucks, whether in your classroom or at the school level. These moments build pride and connection around local food for students. And then cultivating. So this is all about nourishing the system and the teachers. So we need to nourish the people in the system who are doing this work, and that is the teachers and the school food staff. So that might mean sharing resource hubs, local farm and food contacts from your community, going to professional learning opportunities like today, or a collection of food and agriculture themed books for your school library. So it's really about setting up the system and the people in the system to thrive. So as you can see, there's many ways to embed local food literacy in school programs, and hopefully this gave you a few new ideas, or maybe it validated some of the work that you're already doing. So in the next few slides, I will go over examples of each part of the school food system from examples across BC, and then also share some practical resources that you can take away to implement into your classrooms and programs. So I'll make sure to put links in the chat, but we'll also follow up, I think, with a list of links for you to refer back to. And then I just want to invite you, if you have a specific example or resource you want to share with the rest of the group, you can just pop it in the chat or raise your hand again, and feel free to share whenever something comes up, because I know that learning from each other is the best pathway forward. Okay, so growing. So a couple of great examples. There's lots of examples across the province, but I'll just shine a light on two today. One of them is W.L. McLeod Elementary in Vanderhoof, BC. So this elementary school partners with a local community garden where they have boxes at the community garden to grow food that they bring into their salad bar program. So I think this program is supported by a couple teachers at the school, and the PAC as well. It heavily supports this program. And it's neat to see how when students are involved in the growing and they see the seed to the product and it's in their salad bar program, that they're so much more likely to eat it and enjoy it and take pride in that. So that's a really good example. There's also Howe Sound Secondary in Squamish. So this is an example of a school that has developed two BAA courses, so the farm studies, and they have a food and community leadership course where they grow food on their school farm. They partner with an organization called Squamish Can, Squamish Climate Action Network, who helps to manage the farm. And then they have teachers who teach the courses. And so they grow food on their farm that goes to the culinary arts students who prepare the food for their school meal program. And they also put together CSA boxes for their community as well with the produce from the farm. So a neat model of how the growing is really integrated into their school food program and the courses at the high school. Some resource tips. So if you go on Farm to School BC's website, they have a guide to growing a school farm. So this is a really great guide if you're interested or in the beginning stages of thinking about this. They also have the Cultivating Curiosity resource. I'm going to go into more detail about that in a bit because we partnered with them on that project. And that's all about developing a BAA course at a high school. So if you're a secondary level teacher and interested in that, that's a really good resource for you. As well, some virtual farm field trips. I mentioned if you can't get out on the land, if you don't have space and you have different restrictions, then these are really great options to exposing your students to some growing content that's more accessible. So I'll pop these links in the chat right now. These are some examples of different opportunities. Farm Food 360 has virtual tours of Canadian farms. So there's 23 different crops that they cover. They have quizzes, fun facts, career connections, activities. Really great resource. BC Egg, you can register for a live and real-time virtual tour of an egg farm. So that's really exciting if you want something live with your class. So you can register at that link. And then Agriculture in the Classroom Canada, they have, I think, every year the Great Canadian Farm Tour. So they do this live farm tours across Canada, and then they also have them recorded. So right now you can go back over the years and find the recorded farm tours across Canada. They're targeted to grade 6 or K to 6, and they also have digital activity books that are curriculum linked to use too. So if you can't get out on the land, these are a great other option to learn about growing and how food is grown in BC and across the country. Okay, so cooking. When students are meaningfully involved in the work, the food program becomes something they really take pride in. So these are some examples. One is a local food to school program. Sarah, I think your question was, would these work for grades 9 to 12? And yeah, I think so, especially the Farm Food 360. These are pretty general, so I think they'd work great. And also the barn tours as well. So I think for the Agriculture in the Classroom Canada, the content of the curriculum activity books is more to K to 6, but the rest of it would probably work for your classes. Okay, so back to cooking. So the local food to school program. This is in School District 50, Haida Gwaii. They work with local elders and cooks to prepare traditional Indigenous foods with students, blending cultural knowledge and practical cooking skills. So they have a really good relationship with community and elders to bring in these traditional foods and knowledge keepers. And then another example is edible education and lunch lab at Lord Roberts Elementary. So this is Brent Mansfield's program. And how it works, edible education is open to all students in the school, and Brent is the prep teacher, so is able to teach students growing and cooking during those periods. And then also lunch lab is for grades 6 and 7 students to cook lunch for their peers. So it's a really neat model because it's using that prep period kind of model so that the teacher is solely kind of focused on the food program. There is a video that I invite you to watch of his program. I'll just pop that in the chat. You can take a look at it later, and it goes into more detail. It's quite inspiring. He's a passionate teacher. Some resource tips for cooking. So I'm going to get into the Great BC School Food Cook-Off cookbook later. But this is a great resource if you want some student tested and created recipes to cook with your students. So I'll show you more about that later. Okay, sharing. So sharing we talked about was sharing stories and also these community events, sharing with your community. So a couple examples of kind of community events are New Denver School District 10. They have an annual community harvest festival, which has a long-standing relationship and partnership with Lucerne Elementary Secondary School. This is a wonderful community event and really showcases the relationship between students and the community coming together around food. Another one is the Pit Cook event at Signal Hill Elementary in Pemberton. This is an annual event where they harvest vegetables from the school garden and cook it in a pit cook. And then salmon is also prepared in a traditional pit cook. This is led by Tanina Williams, the Indigenous support worker at the school. And it brings together students, families, community members, parent volunteers, helping to host more than 400 attendees each year. So it's really hands-on. Students learn culture and language through food. They're on the land and understanding how local ecosystem works and connecting that knowledge to classroom learning, making it more relevant and meaningful. So when we think about sharing, it's important also to think about the organizations and groups that are already doing this work in your community, and if it's possible to kind of tap into that energy. So are there food systems groups, food policy groups that are have events going on, and how can the school become involved in that and keep that momentum going? So there are big visible examples of sharing, like I just shared with you, but sharing can also be something simple, like telling the story behind the food that you're serving in your class or school. So one great example comes recently from a school food coordinator, Stephanie Tunshell in the Mission School District. She started a Tidbit Tuesday, she called it, where a short story about the featured food of the day is printed and shared with students during mealtime. So it might highlight where the food was grown, who produced it, or an interesting fact, or how the recipe was created. And it was neat to hear from her that students really became interested in these stories over time. They connected more deeply to the food when that they were eating. And then when she said that when they missed a week, students noticed and they asked for the Tidbit Tuesday back. So just kind of goes to show that students are invested in learning about their food, and the more opportunities we can provide those stories, the more meaningful those experiences can be. So then some resource tips. I will touch on these posters and signage in a bit, but it's kind of these same ideas. So we created these all about BC food resources, and you can post them up in your classrooms and kind of share the stories of different ingredients as they're featured in your meals. As well, in the Great BC School Food Cookbook, there are stories from each of the classes about how the recipe was developed. So if you are using recipes from the cookbook, you can also share the story behind those foods. Okay. Cultivating. So this is all about nourishing our teachers and our staff to do this work in a good way. So a great example that came up last year was with School District 57 in Prince George. They have a library, an online library resource hub that's filled with resources on building a school garden, sort of best practices for harvesting on the land. This was created with local elders and knowledge keepers. And then they also have these foraging kits and soup and jam making kits. That's the photo on the screen there. So this is like a district level thing. It could be like a school level kit too, just all of the resources together with some books and tools. So if teachers want to use that in their classes, it's just really easy and grab and go. So they gave us permission to share their link to their library, online library, if you want some inspiration about that. Also, recognizing that funding is also an important resource for many for doing this work in a good way too. So there is a great list of grant opportunities. I'm going to put the link in the chat. This is on the Feeding Futures website, and it has grant opportunities for school food as well as local food as food literacy opportunities as well. So keep an eye on that grant list, as well as I would also keep an eye on the Farm to Cafeteria Canada grant list. Usually they have grants opening up in the beginning of September, and so around that time, keep an eye open for those grants because they typically have annual grants there too. And then lastly, if you haven't heard of this, BC Agriculture in the Classroom hosts a summer institute in partnership with UBC. So this is for teachers um, across the province can participate. I'll just pop the link. I was actually able to participate a couple years ago, and it was a really great experience to meet other teachers doing this work, to learn more about the BC food systems. You go on tours. To different farms and you learn how to teach this work in a good way. So if that's something that you're looking for, that in-person kind of learning and professional development, that's a really good option too. As well, BC Agriculture in the Classroom, if you reach out to them, they're usually able to support other professional development opportunities at the school or district level. And also, you're lucky to have Rocio, who is an advocate for this work and supporting cultivating by experiences like today. Um, so that's great, and you can tap into all of her knowledge too on this. Okay, so I kind of mentioned these different organizations, but before I dive into some of the new resources we've put together, I just want to take a moment to shine a light on these organizations that are doing a really great job. So BC Agriculture in the Classroom Foundation have lots of resources, farm and food maps. They have hands-on programs that you can register for that are typically free. Um, Farm to School BC has also some lesson plans, guides, as I mentioned, teacher mentorship programs, and recorded webinars on building a school garden and school farm and all of those kind of teacher training opportunities. There's hands-on food, where you can dive into practical hands-on food literacy curriculum tailored for elementary school teachers. BC Dairy has BC at the table. So this is for grade 7 to 12 students to explore BC's diverse food system. But BC Dairy also has K to 12 resources and these mini food grants. So if you participate in their workshops, you can be eligible for a food grant to bring food into your classroom. And then if you're interested in seeds and seed libraries and growing that part of learning, Farm Folk City Folk is a great resource for all of that. They have lesson plans, games, activities. So there's so much out there. I'm just going to put this link, FeedBC and K to 12 website in the chat. If you scroll down to the bottom of that page, all of the links to these organizations are there. Okay, so new resources that we've kind of created at the ministry to support local food literacy. The first, the kind of most recent, is Cultivating Curiosity. So this is a program designed to support secondary school educators in strengthening agriculture education in schools. So it's a recorded webinar series, and it showcases these 3 different schools and their BAA programs and courses. So it also provides guidance on developing a BAA course and some course syllabus outlines if you want to look at them. So there's a guide and recorded webinar. So if you're secondary level educator interested in doing this work, even if you don't want to build a whole course, but you want to learn how to incorporate more agriculture into the existing curriculum, this is a really good resource for you. So I will pop that link in the chat as well. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, we had a province-wide cook-off last year, and we had 91 recipe submissions, and it was a really successful event. And through that, we created this cookbook. So this cookbook features 60 recipes created by classes across BC with BC ingredients, and it's available on the Feed BC and K-12 webpage. So there's a link to that. I think Rocio has a physical copy as well. But yeah, nice, awesome. So some ways that you might choose to use it if you want to, maybe do some of that sharing work or the cooking work is you can share new recipes with food staff, feature some recipes in monthly meal plans, try out recipes and share stories with your class. Um, there's lots of stories that include local producers and their names, so you can kind of explore the food system and the producers and processors through the stories. Um, and you can use it as inspiration to create your own classroom or school cookbook too. This is sort of what it looks like. So it has the recipe story here, the BC ingredients, and then all the directions and ingredients there. Okay, we also, in partnership with the Public Health Association of BC, we've created these posters and signage. So we have 10 posters matching scrolling slideshows and elementary and secondary focused activity sheets. Each one of them highlight one of the top BC foods purchased by school food programs. So we did a survey and figured out the foods kind of most commonly served in schools and then created these so students can learn a bit more about those foods. So this is a look at the All About BC Apples poster. Each poster features fun facts about where and how the food is grown or processed, along with a quote from a producer or processor right in the middle there. We've been intentional about showcasing the diversity of BC's food system, so we've highlighted different regions, growing scales, and voices from across the province. You'll also find more information about Indigenous foods and food systems, including the Indigenous name for each food and a territorial acknowledgement of where the featured farmer's location was. So some ways how you can use them, you can print and post them in your cafeterias or classrooms, and you can use in classroom learning or connected to a specific snack or meal and the activity sheets. So this is a look at the scrolling slideshows. Each slideshow is similar to its corresponding poster, but it kind of goes a bit deeper into the product. You'll find fun facts and trivia about where and how the food is grown or processed, along with a bio quote, a bio and a quote from a producer or processor. So we've made sure to highlight the diversity of BC's food system in these posters. The slideshows are timed and they're set to auto scroll, so they're really easy to put on like a cafeteria or hallway screen if you have something like that. And like I said, they also pair with an activity sheet. Great question, Sarah. So that's also on the Feed BC and K-12 webpage. I'm going to show you exactly how to find them in a moment.
And also, Sarah, I don't know, sorry, I don't know if you're a teacher. Maybe you're a teacher? Okay, so because I was like, your name is new for me. Also, I will talk a little bit. We have a little file on the feeding futures that your principal get, and I have all of them. I downloaded all of them, and I have it for
Amazing.
you guys. But it's easy. Alana is going to show you where. It's so easy, and they are wonderful. Sorry, Alana, that I interrupt you.
No, thank you. That's great. That's great to know that you put them all together. Awesome. Yeah, and then so these are activity sheets that go along with the content of the posters and have curricular connections, and they also have links to other resources for teachers to explore. So there are elementary and secondary level activity sheets as well. So this is how you find them on the website. So you go to the Feed BC and K to 12 website. You scroll down to the local food literacy resources section. This is the Great BC School Food Cookbook. That's right here. And then there are all of the different 10 foods that we have. If you click the arrow, it will show the poster, the scrolling slideshow, and the elementary and secondary activity sheets. You can also download the 10 scrolling slideshows all together. Say if you want to put it on your hallway screen and you want all the foods to kind of scroll through. So that's where you can find them. And we are working on another set of 10. So we're growing this to 20 different foods. That's coming soon. Okay. And then lastly, this is my last slide. I know we're almost at time, but current and upcoming opportunities. So currently we are partnering with BC Agriculture in the Classroom for BC Food Classroom Challenges. So if you haven't registered or heard of this yet, it's a great opportunity to get fully fleshed out lesson plans. There's worksheets and slideshows for your class on these different BC foods. And if your class is able to complete the challenge and you're able to take a photo and submit the photo, you'd be entered in to win a $500 farm or food field trip prize. So that's an exciting opportunity. Another opportunity, mostly if you're at that secondary level, if you have students interested in summer work in agriculture, this is a great bursary. They can apply for up to $3,000 for working in agriculture, seafood, fishing field this summer. So good opportunity to pass on to your students. Um, and then, like I said, we are creating 10 more of these posters coming for the next school year. So keep your eye out on that Feed BC and K to 12 webpage, and Rosia will probably add the new ones to the Feeding Futures folder she has. And then lastly, coming soon, we've created 4 videos of local food and local food literacy in K to 12, kind of showcasing different examples across the province. Those are coming in the next couple of weeks, so I'm going to follow up with Rocio and hopefully she can send that link out to all of you when those are ready. So that is the end of my presentation. Um, Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate that you all made it out here, and just wondering if you have any questions or want to share any of the work that you're doing or know is happening across your school.
Before everybody is jumping in, and I appreciate it. I know I see these resources here and there. It's very nice that we were able today to have all together because sometimes you get lost a little bit between what is sharing. I have to say that one of my favorites is the challenges. I know we're on X this week,
Yeah.
so I share with that with the people saying, "Come on, enroll, it's fun." I know also the crunch is coming, the great crunch is coming in March, so something else that we can join. I join every year, and it's so much fun just to see other kids like munching things. So it's always very fun. The book is such a pressure thing. I enjoy so much seeing it and holding it, and I see the recipes. I've been doing some recipes at home just because it's fun to do it. I'm gonna link again everything. I know a few people is gonna share probably or hopefully, but if no, I'm gonna link. I think the book is such a great opportunity if you have, to do something with your kids. I know it's maybe for not a big meal, because I know it's a lot of extra work. But I know some of you guys are working in classrooms very like where you are able to do it. So that's kind of like my favorites. Virtual tours. I visit all the virtual tours, and I think they are very fun. Something that you guys can do. So I mean, I'm gonna let other people talk because you always hear me. But I just want to say, I really appreciate it. It was very fun. Thank you. You give us so many resources. It was amazing. So I don't know if anybody want to share. I know a few people here has very good programs. I know. I've been there. I know that you guys have your labs. I know you guys have your food programs that are wonderful. So I don't know if anybody want to share something very quick or something that you enjoy or that you think that is working. It's always nice to have a good note before we finish.
I'm a new foods teacher for high school. And I'm always trying to
Awesome.
find just new ways to make things interesting. And it's fascinating that you talk about the culture because I do a cultural unit where they have to where they do a project based on a culture of their choosing, and then they choose a recipe either
Nice.
from home or from their family or a food that they're interested in making, and then they have to teach the class how to do it. And so that's I really enjoy doing that one because then I get to experience these recipes and then I try and put these recipes up for every student to be able to make it home if they want to and take it home to their families. But
Amazing.
I really like the ideas of the food tours, especially the virtual ones because it's sometimes hard to get everyone out. But I'm
Yeah.
looking, I want to improve myself as a foods teacher. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love how, yeah, you talked about learning from our students too and their families and cultures and yeah, the great thing about those virtual tours is we can learn so much too along the way about the food systems and experience that with our students. So thanks, Sarah. I appreciate your all you're doing.
Yes, Sabrina. Yeah, I know the grant opportunities are always good. We also have that page with all the grants that I update every time that we have new on our Feeding Future link. If you guys want to come back and check there is a lot of this information. So always is good. If we can get a little bit extra that we can use in our classrooms, it's always appreciated. So yes, just keep that in mind. I will still send in everything, but always feel free to go back to that because there is a lot of resource. Sometimes it's very overwhelming. You forgot the link, you forgot where was it. So it's nice to have everything in one place. So that's kind of my goal. When you open that file, you will see that are divided by grants, First Nations menus or those kind of things. So you guys can see the variety and just click whatever you need it. So that's good. And I'm gonna add more things that Alana shared with us today. So yes, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time and sharing these resources with us. You said that you would send a PDF copy of the slides today. That would be appreciated. And
Yeah,
if you're able to send the list of the links that have been put in the chat, so I don't have to keep going back to my pictures of screenshots,
for
that would be
sure.
much appreciated. Thank you.
Yes, yes, Danica,
Yes.
that will go out with the recording, I believe.
Yes, I will. I will send the links and everything today. Just give me a little bit because I edit. I will take away this part, but I will edit this and then I will send it hopefully by the end of today. So, but if not, you will get it for sure between today and tomorrow with all the links. So you don't have, and I will put the name and I will make it easy, guys, because I know it's too much. So I will make it easy. I will put names. I will put everything organized. So then you can just refer to the email when you guys need it. So don't worry.
And
Yeah,
thank you
you
for
send.
actually, oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I just thank you because they're really for PD there's a lot of everybody else gets PD but foods teachers don't really get a whole lot of stuff, so
Mm.
this has been most insightful and really helpful. So
Good. Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, BC Agriculture in the classroom is also open to doing Pro D opportunities at schools usually. And that Summer Institute, I met lots of home economic teachers who are working towards their masters that went to that program as well and use that as one of their courses. So if that's something you're interested in, it's a great opportunity.
Yeah. Yes, and busy in the classrooms. I know Sabrina already left, but for example, she was one of the people who make some of the lessons. I have the opportunity to chat with her, and she shared with me that how was her process when she was working there, and did few of the lessons because I was going through lessons. I'm a passionate educator, even if I don't do education anymore, and I love to see what is there, and I love to enjoy and see what is the lessons. And I have the opportunity to chat with her, and she was saying, "Oh yeah, I made," and I was like, "Oh, I saw a strawberry lesson from you," and she told me, and it's fun, right? Because when you are there and you read it, and it's easy to put it in practice. So take a look. There are thousands of lessons there that are amazing, amazing. So I mean, all the team that is working on this, we appreciate it. Thank you so much for all the work that you guys do. But yes, so take a look at that one. I mean, you can find a lot of things. So yes.
Yeah.